would, especially now to the presentation. So continue with our objectives. Here's what we're going to talk about. Engaging in our planning decisions, right? So how do we engage students in our planning decisions? Some of the stuff you already know, but we're just going to reframe it perhaps for distance learning. We're going to talk about engaging with our setup, engaging with our norms, engaging with using the chat, engaging with accountability structures. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about checks for understanding. Like, what are checks for understanding that we can do online for those formative checks to make, instructional decisions to move forward or, go back, right? Also talking about, we're going to end with a game. All right, so quick quiz. Which side is more engaged? Engagement is a life and death decision, right? I mean, it really is. It's a life and death school. It's a life and death skill. All right, maybe this one is a little bit more pertinent to our left. Thank you, Aaron, on the left. Okay. Which one's more engaged? Left or right? Where do we want our students to be? Now, these are adults, right? And so this is something adults struggle with too, right? Engagement. We know adults struggle with engagement in the car. How many times are you driving to work and people are doing stuff they shouldn't be doing and driving at the same time? How often is it that that myself included, right, should be working and should be focused and should be engaged in our work, should be participating in the webinar, and we're off doing something else, right? Our students struggle with this too. And we came out of a session just now, and Martha Getros was working with Maggie Power, and they were talking about soft skills, right? I think focus is an important skill. And I think it's going to have to be that something we're going to have to keep coming back to. We're going to have to keep coming back, and we're going to have to keep talking about focus and engagement over and over. And it's a skill. It really is a skill, I think, that students need to learn. I know that I, as a human being, as a worker, as a learner, need to learn it too and can get better at it. All right, so let's talk first. Our first place to talk about engagement is engaging students with norms. Norms specifically for online class. And these are norms. These are some example norms. I encourage you to have online norms for your students, just like you have a class set of rules, like when you start in the brick and mortar world, right? When we're all back in our classrooms, looking forward to that. What kind of norms are we going to set up our classes with when we're in distance learning? First and foremost, right, we want to tell our kids, stay engaged. Maybe show them a couple of pictures like the ones I just did and tell them that, hey, we're all in this together. Adults are struggling with this. Everybody's struggling with this engagement thing. We're also going to really want to encourage them to participate positively. And again, in the adult world, right, how many negative examples can we see of online participation minute by minute, day by day, right? There's lots of bad examples out there. In fact, below this, if you go to this slide in the presentation, I've got some sentence starters that you can guide students to using to make sure that they keep their language positive in their online conversations. Do refer to those. That's going to be an issue, right? We're going to have our kids communicating more and more. Clearly they do it already prior when we were in the brick and mortar world, but in their online conversations, how are they going to frame their critiques? How are they going to frame something that they like? That will provide a guide and a way of thinking about that. Mute audio and video in whole class meetings. Well, that mute video, again, we don't have to mute our video, so I'm going to encourage you actually not to mute video. I'm going to encourage our students to unmute their video. So I'm going to change that one right now, but mute your audio and unmute your video in whole class meetings. Eliminate distractions for you and for others. Again, speaking of my friend's son, Sonny, right, who's looking at his phone, like, get the phone away from your desk if that's a problem, right, for our students, or get it off the kitchen table, right, so you're not tempted to look at the Avengers movie. Also think, this goes beyond just the devices you have. It also is how your background is behind you, right? So your students, if they're going to be on video, right, you want to make sure that, or they want to make sure that whatever they have behind them is appropriate for the learning activity that's going to take place. Now, I've heard Google Meet, which has been our primary vehicle for online meetings, is going to be moving to something like a Zoom functionality where they have a ability to put in a background. That'll be a good thing, right? So that they can put in something that's appropriate to the learning, or something that facilitates learning for others. Because you can imagine, with all the stuff that's going on behind the students, that could distract other students from the learning. And then there's that last one. In case of technical difficulty, continue with the learning activity. Do bring that up with your kids. Even in the brick and mortar world with my students, when I first went to one-to-one, I had the opportunity to pilot one-to-one about 10 years ago at La Paz Middle School. And at that time, that was like our #1 norm. Like, what are you gonna do if things don't work? And that's gonna happen, right? We need to remind our students and remind ourselves, like, we're gonna continue on best we can. That might mean, like, you have a list of activities, like, oh, go to the textbook, or reflect on the learning goal for the day and do whatever you can, whatever steps you can take to try to do that while your computer reboots, okay? So again, have some norms. And then the next part of this, so that was norms, right? The next part of this is engaging students with your planning. And some of this stuff is gonna look really familiar to you. Clearly, we wanna connect to our previous learning, like, right, that, like, build on background knowledge, right? And so that's something that's going to be hugely, hugely important here, just to make those connections. Think about the pausing. We've heard for years about the 10 minutes of teacher talk, 2 minutes of, student reflecting, and then 2 minutes of student talk to think about what it was that was said, and then 2 minutes of reflection, or 2 minutes of processing. It's going to change things now, right? The point is, you're gonna have to find what works best for you, but something that's worked well for me with kids, I found so far, or when I've been thinking about this, is something like 5-1. Like, no more than 5 minutes of me talking, or maybe it's 7, depending on the audience, and then 1 minute to reflect, or 1 minute to process. Okay, don't forget that 10-2-2, just modify it a little bit. Maybe now it's 5-1, or 7-2, or 7-1, or something like that. And interactivity, leverage the power of the internet, leverage the power of all these resources to provide interactivity. One of the things we have, like my wife gets tired of it, but Kahoot, right? Kahoot's fun. Yeah, and that's interactive. And there's other applications. I know Servando is participating. Servando has a great session on quizzes. That's another application that really boosts interactivity and gets kids thinking, gets kids on their feet. We're gonna go over some others in this session as well. And don't forget about voice and choice. And you know what? I know we're not forgetting about that. Providing students voice, giving them choice in the kinds of activities that they're doing. If you're not familiar with choice boards, Google choice boards, right? Giving students the opportunity to, whatever assignment you give them, different ways of representing what they're learning, whether it be a video, whether it be an infographic, maybe it's an essay, right? But giving them different ways that they can tap into their creativity and what they like to do in order to deliver on the content or instructional objectives that you have. Ask open-ended, and we know this, right? Ask open-ended questions. When we ask open-ended questions that aren't yes/no questions, so like when you're in the chat, if you want to, or you start the day with your bell task or your opener, ask a question that's more open-ended, but is not discrete, yes or no. Like, what if? How might? What do you notice or wonder? You could show a video or an image. What do you notice or wonder, and so on. And then, of course, use multimedia. There's a lot of multimedia out there. We're probably bombarded and overwhelmed, but use it. It's multimedia is multimedia, and it's engaging in its own right. All right, so engage students with your setup. So that was engage students with your planning, like planning decisions. And there's more to that, for sure. But we can also talk about engaging students with your physical setup, okay? So again, I appreciate those of you that have your webcam on. Do have your webcam on. Have them have their webcam on. It's already disordered in a way, because trying to look and read your students' faces and having them try to look and read yours, it changes things, right? It changes things in this distance learning event that we're in. If we have our webcam on, we're better able to engage and they're better able to engage with us. If you can, depending on where your monitor is, have your webcam eye level or higher. And I just found this because I read an article, and this is no joke, and the person was talking about having their laptop down low down here, and how after this person was done delivering, it was like a college lecture, one of the students said, Dr. So-and-so, I was looking right up your nose during the whole thing. So just so they're not looking up your nose, if you can, put the webcam up eye level or higher, or somewhere, like I'm looking at mine, mine's right about eye level, maybe a slightly lower. I noticed my wife in her office, like she stacks books. You've probably seen this with newscasters, right? They're stacked, so they don't have their audience looking up their nose. They have books stacked on a table, right? And then they put their laptop on the table. That might be a strategy for that. There's also monitors you can buy, right, that will prop things up. I have my monitor sitting on a ream of paper to elevate it. All right, an extension, again, to set things up electronically, one that I recommend is Nod. And Nod will enable you to do is, and you encourage your students to get it too. Although Google Meet, I heard, is going to get this function. It enables your students to raise their hand. It also enables students to do thumbs up. And Aurelia, clap. Thank you very much for that clap. Aurelia has one. Yeah, Sherilyn raised her hand. Very good, Sherilyn. We're getting to questions. So those are coming. Check your browser. I've already said this. This is the norms. Check your background and your browser, right? So check your background as a teacher, and also check your browser, right? Like, just make sure, like, the tabs that you have, like I'm scrolling up above my tabs, and you should be able to see them across the top. Just make sure the tabs are appropriate to the learning that's going to take place. Just be purposeful in those tabs that you choose, right? If you have other things that aren't related to your teaching, like drag those off, put those down below in another part of your screen. But just be purposeful in how you set up your technical setup. And this is, I put this in red because this is something I'm working on, right? I'm working on looking at that webcam, right? So to the best that I can, like, I'm going to have eye contact. Okay, and split the screen. And here's what I mean by split the screen. I think I have a graphic of it. Here's what I mean by split the screen. It's so much easier for me as a facilitator. And here's how I have it right now. I have a window on my left, on the left of my screen, that has all of the stuff I want to show you, all of the stuff that I want to teach today. On the right, I've dragged out a tab, and it's my Google Meet tab. So I have two windows. On the right is my Google Meet. On the left in that window is my teaching window, and I've got all my tabs inside that window. If that doesn't make sense to you, come back to this slide and try to replicate it, okay, by setting up two windows. It's going to take a little getting used to, right? Practice that. Practice your setup in advance. And then when it comes time to run your Google Meet, you can present a window. You can also present a tab. I'm going to talk a little bit about that when we get to video, but present your window, and then you're presenting the one, in my case, like I'm presenting the one on the left, right? So practice this, right? If you're not familiar with this, check it out, practice it, get used to it. This is what's worked best for me. Some of you might have another way. Feel free to drop that in the chat if you have a better physical setup that's worked well for you. By the way, I find, like, it's great that our district is providing teacher Chromebooks. It's absolutely great. But I've found that having a monitor, a bigger monitor, is super helpful. Just super helpful to set this up. You can do it on your teacher Chromebook if that's what you have. But having a bigger monitor, and I don't think I think you can buy them between like $100 and $200, perhaps, that has like a camera and a microphone. You might want to look into that. Okay, it's 'cause I think it becomes a tax write-off, right? Don't quote me on that, but I think it does. All right, so let's talk. That was engaging via your physical setup. Let's talk about the chat. We want to talk about engaging via the chat, right? You're going to be using the chat and the webcam, right? And you're going to encourage your kids to show themselves. First of all, when you engage via the chat, like I've asked you to do today, if you have a question, right? Because Maggie's going to be collecting questions as they come in. The chat can get busy. And if you call out in the chat question, like have your students put a question mark colon in the question, that's just going to draw your eyes to it. In fact, you could even have a student, like a student moderator or a student chat facilitator that you rotate that responsibility to, and have them check for questions. And then every now and then stop and then go, hey, let's go to the chat and let's check in with questions with our student facilitator, right? That gives you one less thing you have to do. Another thing is, give me 3. We do this, right? Like 3 if you really get it, 2 if you kind of get it, 1 if you're struggling with it still, right? So give me 3. You can use that in the chat. You can also use that on the webcam, right? 3, 2, 1, right? 3, 2, 1. We've done that before. Fist to 5, right? We do the same thing with 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't forget those. You can use those with the webcam, and you can also use them in the chat, right? I'm noticing right now as I'm looking at this that that when I'm presenting, right, I can't see everybody, right? So if I asked you to do like a fist of 5 right now or give me 3, I couldn't see everybody's response. There's 110 people here. So in this case, I would say, I would use the chat, right? So I can't see like all 30, I can't even see 30 of you. Like with my presentation going, I see like 6, I see 8 people in Google Meet. So this would be a time to use the chat, right? I would use 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you have a smaller group, you can do that with the video, or you could even change your view, right? So you could stop presenting and then do that too. But just be cognizant of that. Like when you're presenting your screen, you're only going to see a few of your kids, right? You're not going to see all of them. All right, so engaging via the chat, check in. Feel free to stop. And you know, like I've just totally run afoul. You know, I was talking about like that 5-1 model or the 10-2-2. Like I've just blown that completely, right? But I can do this, and I'm going to do this right now. Why not ask who is still with me? Who is still with me? Can you hear my voice? Can you see my screen? Please respond in the chat. Go ahead and do it. Who is still with me? Can you hear my voice? Thanks, Bianca. There's no reason we can't do that, right? All right. Very good. You're still with me. You're not on the Avengers. Okay. Or so maybe some of you are on the Avengers. If Sonny was here, he would be on the Avengers. Okay. And then again, those open-ended questions. And actually calling people out. Like, don't be afraid to call people out by name. Like if, you know, all of a sudden you want to stop, and you can even tell the kids, you know, up front today, I'm going to be calling you by name. You know, I'm going to be doing like, you know, we're going to be going over some stuff, and I'm going to be calling on you by name just to, you know, it's not really cold calling. It's not going to be cold calling, but I just want to hear what your perspective is on whatever it is we're covering. So like, what do you think, John? Or what do you think, Jose? Or what is the answer? You know, there's no reason we can't do that, right? Okay. And then you can give kids like in 5 minutes, I'm going to stop and have everyone enter a question in the chat. Like, what is a question you have about what we're covering right now? And in 5 minutes, I'm going to stop. So I'm setting my timer right now, right? I'm setting my timer on my phone. In 5 minutes, I'm going to ask. That's just something that we know we're already doing like structures like this in our classes, but we can do that online too, right? And we can just have them enter the question in their chat. All right. Let's talk about accountability structures, more about accountability structures. Now, one of my favorite things in the classroom, one of my best tools is my cup with popsicle sticks and numbers on them that correlate to my students' classes. My students, the seat equity sticks, right? They're equity sticks. You know, I number my seats in my classroom, and I have equity sticks. They're popsicle sticks, and they have a number from usually 1 to 35. I shake that up. I have a question, right? I pull out the equity sticks. Oh, number 14. You know, that's Mary. You know, Mary. You know, respond to this. Reflect on that. Again, that's an engagement structure that's worked well for me in the brick and mortar world. Well, we can do that too on the online world, right? I'm going to say it's not. Here's a virtual equity sticks tool that I've used a great deal, and some of you have seen me present before know that I've talked about this a great deal, and that is Flippity. Flippity is a great virtual equity sticks. And watch, here's what Flippity does. Like Flippity, you put in a spreadsheet of names, and then here are the names of the kids, and you run it, and you say, okay, the next person that's going to answer this is Betty. Okay, Betty, you're up. What's the answer? So check out Flippity. Flippity is pretty easy to set up. If you go to flippity.net, that's a nice tool. Let me show you something else that's about Flippity. And I'm still trying to work out what it's going to look like in regards to setting up groups. But Flippity has some great tools for putting kids in groups. So yeah, check out flippity.net. And let's go back. All right, so that's that. And then Maggie, we're going to stop here, and we're going to do like 3 minutes of Q&As or questions that have come up. If you would unmute yourself, Maggie.
One moment, please. Okay, here we go. All right. How do you see all the faces in the grid?
So in the grid, thank you very much for that question. So what you do is you're going to hover over and practice this, right? You're going to hover over the bottom of your Google Meet. Like right now, like if I hover over the bottom of my Google Meet, It's going to say you are presenting. You're not going to see this, but on my side, it says you are presenting. And then if I click on you are presenting, I can click stop presenting, and I can go to the 3 dots that are next to it, and I can change the screen layout. So I'm going to take a screenshot of this so you can see what I'm talking about. Just bear with me for a moment. I've just taken a screenshot. And I'm going to put it in. While that screenshot's loading, Maggie, is there another question?
Yes. Webcams apparently strain Wi-Fi, so kids will turn them off. That was a concern.
Yes, it is. Thank you for that concern. It is, and you're gonna have to navigate that for sure. Okay. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see that screenshot I just took? So let's come back to that question here in a moment. And you see where it says change layout. So if I click on these 3 dots down here, Maggie, do you see what I'm pointing at?
I see. Yes. Yes.
And you see where it says change layout?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where I can change the layout. So
Okay.
play with that a little bit too.
Okay.
All right. And Maggie, go to that other piece you were just talking about.
Which other question?
The question about kids' Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi. Webcam stray Wi-Fi.
That's what we do. And you're gonna have to navigate that as a teacher, right? So if it does, and that kids are having issues, right? That's an equity issue. At the bottom line is they need to participate in your class. And so if they can't participate with their webcam, they can't.
Okay.
The way that's settled is, again, in the same spot. That is with that, in the settings, they can go in and you can go in and change your video and audio settings. Okay, so do check that out. Like those same 3 dots that are back over here. If you click on settings, there's video and audio settings here that you can reduce the amount of bandwidth you're using by changing those.
Okay. You also had several questions on how to split the screen and how to move tabs down.
Yeah, Maggie, as we know, that's a thing, right?
Yep.
From our conversation today, right?
Yep.
So so that's something to practice. What I would recommend, I'm not going to be able to model it perfectly right now. What I would recommend to those of you that are interested in that is that you go back to go to the slideshow, go find that slide that has that, and try to replicate it and just practice it.
Mm-hmm.
And try to get it right until it looks right and it mimics kind of what you're seeing on my side. All right, I'm going to continue, Maggie, or are there more?
Yeah, there's one more thing was the screen extension. One of the teachers added that you can actually get a Chrome extension thing called resize extension, tab resize extension on Chrome.
Great. Could whoever put that, could you drop that link to that in the chat? That would be great, because that is a great tool for separating your screens.
Okay, and then how to split screen. Oh, the doc cam. Can you display an image on the doc cam in one window and the Google Meet in another window?
It depends. It depends what kind of doc cam you have.
Not a good answer, Rob.
I know. Sorry. So the newer doc cams that are coming out, they're actually cheaper now. They connect via USB, and I forget the name of them. They've got them now down in IT. And so like Rancho San Juan, they have them. So if you're at Rancho San Juan, they've got these new ones, and they can project via Chrome. The other ones, I think you can do it too. I think you can take any window that you have. So I think that can happen.
Okay.
All right.
You want to move on and then come back?
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay.
And if you still have questions that we're going to keep asking your questions. I will hang out after this, right? We're going to go till 3:30. I will stick around after this if you have questions that don't get attended to. And there's
one really good last question. We'll save it till the end.
All right, very good. All right, so here's the big part. Here's the meat. It's 3 o'clock now, right? So 3:01, and here's the meaty part of this presentation. The other part, I think the other stuff is good. Again, you're thinking about that one thing, right, that you're going to take away from today. This is engaging with checks for understanding. We all want to do checks for understanding, and you want to tell your students, right? Hey, we're going to do checks for understanding throughout this, throughout this synchronous online class. That's going to just, you saying that, right, is going to keep them on their toes. And then when you actually do it, it's going to keep them on their toes too, right? So we're going to go through these different tools. Google Forms, right, is one. Answer Garden is another. Mentimeter, Google Classroom, and my new favorite is Slido. And we are going to interact with a couple of these, and we'll see some examples from the others. All right, so let's take a look at Answer Garden. I really like Answer Garden because it's easy. It's easy. Like I can go to Answer Garden, I think it's answergarden.ch. And when I go to Answer Garden CH, I just type that in, right? So I've already typed that in up here. And when I go to Answer Garden CH, I can, oh, what are you guys seeing when I'm presenting right now? You're not seeing my screen, are you?
I'm seeing it.
Are you seeing where it says Answer Garden?
Yes.
Oh, you are? Okay,
yes.
Perfect. All right, you know what it is? Because I have a, see, this happens too, right? You've got all these windows open, so be aware of that, okay? So I just like, even though I didn't blow it, I thought I was, 'cause I do this all the time, right? I get going and I go, oh, I want that screen to show, but I think I have this one showing, and so on. Anyway, that's another reason to have a student moderator or someone to check in. Like I've got Maggie here, and Maggie's just confirmed that, hey, we do have Answer Garden. And this is just an opportunity too, like, give me a thumbs up, right, if you see Answer Garden. Everybody do it, please, if you, yeah, all right, good. We're gonna have those moments for sure. All right, so Answer Garden. Answer Garden at Answer Garden CH. When you go there, and I'm there now, and when I go there, it's easy to create a question. So I just go to Answer Garden CH. I create an Answer Garden. This is a quick check for understanding. So if I want to do, like I've already put it in because I've prepared for today, but let's say I type in what makes a class engaging. The only thing I would recommend doing, I mean, you can moderate it. I'm not going to do that right now, but you can moderate it. And you know you're going to have some classes, right, where you're going to want to moderate what gets shown for sure. I would change the answer length to 40 for sure to give kids more time. And then click create. And then here it is. I have this, right? Then I would, here's what makes the class engaging. And I'm going to ask you to answer this. I'm going to take this link. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to put it in a chat. So here's our first opportunity to interact with a check for understanding. Please go to the link in the chat, which is answergarden.ch and whatever that number is, and answer the question. What makes a class engaging? And let's see how Answer Garden treats it. Ninja battles and explosions, nice. Instructor enthusiasm, relevance, hands-on activity. Oh, thank you for that. I like that one. I'm working on it. I can't tell you how long it took me to prepare my first 4 days for the year. Like I can't even tell you. Like I'm working on it. Getting those wheels going. Challenges, students are able to participate. Check for understanding, showing up. Interesting topics. Good. Notice I'm refreshing, right? Because it doesn't seem to be populating. Look at all that stuff. Interesting topics. Notice that it's taking some of the things that, and looks, you know, some people have put in interesting topics twice. It's doing that, like that, what do you call those things? It's like, it's escaping me. But anyways, it highlights the things that have shown up most frequently. So this is a great tool, right? Very quick, very easy. Nice. What's nice about this too is there's moderation. I didn't turn the moderation on for this, but you're going to want to check that out, right? Again, some of us are going to be in circumstances, right, where we need to moderate what's coming in, right? We need to approve it before it goes live and gets shown to everybody else. And Answer Garden does that. So that's Answer Garden. Well done, everybody. Great stuff in here. Ask questions, opportunities to respond. Okay, make the content personal. Yes, and you know what? I'm really reflecting on what I heard from Maggie earlier today about tapping into kids' interests with the work that they're doing. So awesome. All right, so that's Answer Garden. What do you think of Answer Garden? Give me a 3, 2, 1. What do you think of Answer Garden in the chat? 3 is awesome. 2 is okay. 1 is, nah, I'm not impressed yet. I'm seeing lots of 3s and 2s. All right, easy to use. Yeah. All right, good.
2.99.
All right, Google Forms, right? We've been using Google Forms for quite some time, right? In the district, we're a Google Suite for Education, a Google district, right? So we have Google Forms. Google Forms are great for checks for understanding, right? They present things in, you know, like nice graphics, right? When you go to the results, use Google Forms, right? Stop and ask questions in the middle of your discussions or after kids finish something, or do it for like a bell task or an opener for the next day. I know many of you are already doing that, right? And then show the results, reflect on the results. Okay, so in this case, right, I have 3 multiple choice questions. This actually comes from a class I was teaching at La Paz when I was teaching US history. And I was, one of the things I was always concerned about, right, I would cover the plans for government that led up to the Constitution, right? The compromises that occurred in the Constitution. They had to do it. Like, I was always unsure of whether the kids got the Virginia plan, which was the big state plan, or the New Jersey plan, which was the small state plan, and whether they understood the nuances of the Great Compromise. And so I gave them this, right? I remember, and I was blown away, like, hey, oh, they got it. They got it. I can move on, right? So, or they didn't get it, and I need to go back and teach that one particular part. We know this, right? That it presents it, look how beautiful it presents itself, right? In Google Forms on the results tab. All right, now also in Google Classroom, like, we have questions, right? We can ask our students all kinds of questions just within the context of Google Forms. Use that, or not Google Forms, but rather Google Classroom. And another example, right? There's a multiple choice. There is like a constructed response. Here's one of my new favorites. This would, this might be, if you're not familiar with Mentimeter, this is the one you might be walking away with. And I'm going to think of a very specific example that you might be using like in the first week, where Mentimeter would really work well in distance learning. But we're going to check that out now. So what I want everybody to do is I want you to go to menti.com. So I'm going to drop that in the chat. And then I want you to put in code 273594. So www.mentimeter.com. So there's menti.com. I put it in the chat so you can go straight there. And then the link is, or the number is 273594. And let's see what Menti does. Which engagement strategy do you prefer most? And the choices are equity sticks, connecting to prior learning, movement, rain breaks. Isn't that cool? Look at that. Group work, structured student talk, and of course there's more. Notice down here too, I know there's 111 people here, right? So far, look at the bottom right, I'm tracking engagement right here, right? There's 47, 48, 49. How many do you think we're gonna get?
All right, I really appreciate your help. You have a great day. Thank you.
How many? Let's see, we're at 68 so far. How many more are we gonna get? 75. Hey, oh, structured student talk. Now, equity sticks. Yeah, equity sticks. Here, again, you can use Flippity for equity sticks, right? Good. Let's give it 15 more seconds. That's another engagement strategy, right? Just to like limiting the time, right? We know that. Use timers. I already lost track of where I am with that 15 seconds. Let's say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Now, if I really wanted to, right, I could say, oh, we need to get better. We got 85 of 110 people, but 86. But you get the point, right? All right. So this is Mentimeter. We're going to continue with Mentimeter. So let's continue. Now, I want you to think about this one. So here we are at menti.com again. So use that. You should be seeing this. Which student engagement strategies do you frequently use? And again, same question, I think, but watch what happens with this one. Is anybody thinking about that Four Corners activity that they do like at the beginning of the year? Like, how was your, what'd you do this summer? Like, oh, I went to the beach. I went to the mountains. Can you see how you can use this, right? To start the year? Like a virtualizing of that 4 corners or the 5 corners, or the 6 corners activity. Like virtual movement in the class, right? This is a great way of thinking about that. In fact, on my second day so far, I'm thinking about using something like this, right? I'm going to ask students about, I forget what the prompt is, but I'm going to ask students a question about, I think maybe their learning preferences, right? What are your learning preferences? Do you like to work in groups? Do you like to work by yourself? And typically what I do in a brick and mortar class is I'd have students like go to those corners, right? But in this case, I'm going to have them virtually go to those corners using this, right? All right, so let's continue. We're at 47. Let's give it, I don't know, 30 more seconds. Yeah, okay, Maggie, I got your text. Maggie says, can I share with him, Maggie? He says, slow down. I get so excited. All right. All right, slow down. Maybe that's an engagement strategy too, right? Slowing down. Pausing, right? Being purposeful with your pausing. I've
Let
heard
me
that.
know when you're ready for questions, Rob.
What's that?
Let me know when you're ready for question.
Okay. Well, since you brought it up, Maggie, go ahead.
Okay,
You
so
go ahead here.
first one is how to make, well, let me stick with the topic. I'll go back to that one. How do you way to know if everyone's responded, all people have responded in Answer Garden?
Yeah, you know, I don't know of a thing that's incrementing it up like it is here. So Answer Garden, I think, is something that's good for, like, if you haven't planned it and you just want to stop and ask a question, that's when I would use Answer Garden. Okay, so
Okay.
Answer Garden is kind of like, it's simplistic, so it doesn't have like these others where it's counting.
Okay. Can you tell who said what if you're moderating? I don't know what that question was for, but.
Yeah, for sure. No, because if someone says something inappropriate, right, you want to hold them accountable for that. No,
Oh, right, yeah.
no, you can't. And so that's, again, you got to use that one. You know, you got to be careful with that one. But
Where is the all button? Charlie Stone's asking that, the all
all
button.
button for what?
Not sure. Maybe Charlie.
Do you want to clarify, Charles? Well, Charles, feel free to clarify in the chat.
The all,
Yeah, I
okay.
don't remember asking.
Where's the all button? Somebody asked me, where's the all button?
I think he was referring to choose A, B, C, D, or all of the above.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I mean, put that in.
Yeah, I remember that. That's what it was. I wanted to, those are great strategies that you've picked out here, Rob.
Oh, thanks, Charles. I'm working hard. I'm working on it. All right, I'm going to move on now.
Yep.
Okay. I think I'm done with Mentimeter, but notice that there's other questions. There's other ways you can do questions in Mentimeter, right? I am going to move on. There's different Mentimeter is great, and for the free version, I think you get three different slides that you can use, and each slide. Thank you very much. So you can see this is doing that same kind of thing that Answer Garden was doing before. All right, I am going to move on though. They're awake. Yeah. How do you know they're awake, right? Okay. All right, Slido. This is one of my new favorites too. And if you haven't heard of Slido, maybe this is the one you're walking away with, because here's what's great about Slido. Like, notice I've been clicking out to like go to Answer Garden. I've been clicking out to go to Mentimeter, right? I've been clicking out of my presentation. Slido, what's great about Slido is it's embedded in my Google Slides presentation, right? It's a way of checking for understanding using a tool that's built in to Google Slides. So here's Slido. So this time, we're gonna try this out again. Which tools or strategies that you have seen today are you considering using during your distance learning classes? So I want you to join at slido.com. I'm going to drop that in the chat, remembering to put a www and w in front of it so it can be clickable. If I don't do that, it's not clickable. It's now in the chat, and then enter in number 3430. Great, yeah, online learning norms. I think this one you can select all of them if you want, or select whatever, you know, as many as you want. And I can see people answering questions to other people. Thank you very much. It's really hard to do that with 110 people. So thank you very much for answering other people's questions here as well. Thank you, Maggie. You're doing an awesome job. I don't know if I told you Maggie was Teacher of the Year in 2019.
Can you please stop that?
It's great to have you here, Maggie. Grateful. I'm totally grateful. Notice how Slido 2 in the top right corner, it's incrementing. Again, gauging and thank you, Jordana. Jordana noticed the QR code and she used that. And notice the numbers incrementing in the top right corner. And Jessica, I agree. Yeah, yeah. So you got it, Mark. You did that too, it looks like. So kids can use their phone. And we're at 72, so it looks like we're getting some light. Again, Mentimeter, yeah, Mentimeter is an awesome one. Again, you get 3 free polls, right, with Mentimeter. On my second day of instruction so far, as I've thought about it, like I wanted to ask 6 questions. So what I did is I did 2 Mentimeter polls, like part 1, right? I have a Mentimeter file, and then part 2 for the second part, so I could get all 6 questions in. Online learning norms are truly important as well. All right, so let's continue. I'm going to wrap this up in 10 seconds. Then 5, 4, 3, 2, and that window closing, right? 2, 1, 0. All right. So again, in Slido, embedded into Google Slides. Okay, so let's talk about, one of the things I talked about was engaging with multimedia. Like we can show videos, like we do show videos to our kids, right? In Google Meet, most of us are using Google Meet. The best way to show videos is to present a tab. Right now I'm presenting a window. And Google recently added this, right? They added this feature, and I think it was specifically for this, because I noticed before, like when I would present my entire screen, or I would present a window, like the video was choppy. Have you ever seen that before? Like you would be in the, you'd be in a session, right? Or you deliver a video to your kids and they report back, oh, the video's choppy, or the audio got choppy. And it still might happen here, but Google has come back in the last, I think in the last couple months, and they've added this new present with a tab. And so of all the choices, like when you present your screen, you have 3 choices. And I'm going to go over it now so I can read it exactly. Right now, it says you are presenting. So I'm going to stop presenting, and you're going to see the presentation go away. And I'm going to go to present now. I'm going to click that button again where it says present now. And I have 3 choices. I have your entire screen, a window, or a Chrome tab. And there's little language below where it says a Chrome tab, best for video and animation. So if you're going to show a video, a lot of us are, right, going to show videos, use that 3rd option, present with a Chrome tab. So I'm going to click that now, because that's best for audio video, and I'm going to select that, let's see, I'm going to select that one, and it's right here in my presentation. So now I'm presenting a tab, and it says showing the tab. And let's see how clean this is. Let me know in the chat how clean the video plays, okay? And actually, we're gonna have a reflection question on the video when we're done with it. But this is great. If you haven't seen this before, this is our Japanese teachers doing amazing work, right? Amazing. They're doing amazing work before in the brick and mortar setting, but they're doing, you know, and I'm not just Japanese, the world language teachers. So check this out.
ギリギリおにぎりの時間がやってきました。司会を務めさせていただきます。西村美代と申します。よろしくお願いします。My name is Mio Nishimura and I teach Japanese at Aresao High School. 皆さんよろしく。さて、おにぎりコンペティションということで、今日は We invite 3 teachers from Salinas Union High School District and they are going to compete by making おにぎり。So, what is onigiri? Kamimura sensei, what is onigiri?
Yes, onigiri is one of my favorite Japanese food. It's very simple, it's very easy to make, but it started to become more fun and very creative, cute, and people are trying different things with onigiri. So I'm really excited that we get to share onigiri with you today.
おー、いいですね。ありがとうございます。で、Azama sensei, where can Japanese people buy onigiri?
Rob, you're muted.
See, Look at that. That's going to happen too. That's why you got to have the moderator. So thank you, whoever that was. Thank you very much. You've seen that happen too, right? All right. So let me know in the chat, like, what was the quality of your video experience? Give me a fist of 5 in the chat, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What was the quality of the video and the audio using the tab? Or you can, okay. All right. So not bad. Look, we have 110 people. I'm seeing 3, 4s, and 5s. 3.5. All right. 3s. Yeah. So not bad, right? Not bad. Pretty good. All right. And I was going to have us like do a Slido activity, but we've already seen Slido. So I'm going to move on.
Can I ask one quick question?
Yes.
Because it's a big one, and I think you need to address it before you move on. Is Slido free?
Is what?
Is it free, Slido?
Okay, Slido is like a freemium, right? So you can, you can get a certain number of free questions up to a point. I think there's like 3 or so. There might be more.
Because the other option was Carolyn mentioned that you can use Nearpod.
Yes.
Google Slide Deck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nearpod is awesome, and our district has just purchased it. So Nearpod is going to have that functionality built in. And here's another great thing about Nearpod. Nearpod comes with tons of lessons that are already pre-built.
Right.
Okay, so Nearpod, when that formally gets moved in and that gets rolled out, you're going to want to check out Nearpod too. So thank you, Carolyn, for bringing that up.
Last 2 questions. Is a short video 5 minutes as opposed to 10?
Is a short video. Well, yeah, I think you have to use your best judgment in regards to what.
What's the easiest format for creating videos in?
Yeah. So, Maggie, you were talking a lot about Loom, right? I think Loom is a great tool. I mean, there's also Screencastify. If you want to make something that's a little bit like more like has post-production elements where you're putting in title pages, I think Adobe Spark is a great free tool that you should check out as well. That's, like as I think about student projects, that's one that I certainly would encourage my students to use.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Maggie. You're doing a great job. All right. So the last part of this, right, is, engaging with a quiz. And, I mentioned my wife before. My wife, like she sometimes laments the fact that I use things like Kahoot a lot, but it's still, I mean, when you've done this, I know many of you out there, we've got 108 people here now. I know many of you have used like Kahoot, right? What's been the engagement level of your students when they've done it? Even if you've used it a lot, even if they use it across the board in a lot of their other classes, right? I know Servando too, like Servando does quizzes. There's high engagement value here. So I encourage you to use this, and you can use it in the virtual world too. And we're gonna try it. We're gonna try it with over 100 people right now, just to see what it looks like in a distance learning setting. So are you ready for Kahoot? People are over it at this point. Thank you. All right. And by the way, Servando has a quizzes session this Friday. So do check that out, because quizzes is a great tool as well. I just happen to be more familiar. In fact, Servando, I'm going to be in your quizzes session because I want to use it myself. All right. So Kahoot, let's try it out. Again, sticking with the theme of Japanese, the food, right? We're going to do one on sushi. So here it is. We need to review this? No, let's just do it. Okay. So let's try it out. Let's go to Kahoot. We'll follow the instructions here. And I'll put the link in the chat. Oh, you can't see it. Nope. Okay, hold on. Now you should be able to see it. Thank you. See, I need to be checked. Like this is the real thing, right? We need to be checked in on when we're delivering this stuff. Get a kid to do that for you. I'll get a student to do that for you. All right, so I need to start. We've got 2 players so far. By the way, notice in Kahoot too, right? You could, like, kids might put in something that you don't want to show up here. You could eliminate it, right? So you have a little bit of moderation ability here as well. All right, let's wait for a few more. All right, I'm going to start in, here's a window to join the Kahoot, because we're at 3:27 right now. So I do want to move on. Those of you that don't join, that's okay too. So we'll see how it works. I'm glad, Elise. I'm glad you're a freshman. That's awesome. See? All right, I'm going to start it. Here we go. Go. Here we go. I love sashimi. What is it? All right. Nice, nice work. Nice. All right. What is nori? It's the vocabulary quiz. All right. Wow. People know their Japanese food. Look at that. All right. Sweet. Yeah, Cassandra, that's a good idea. Always read the questions out loud. Good. Yeah, and I can see that there's some people like Cheryl. That's a good point about splitting your screen. We'll talk about that. We'll debrief after this. So thank you for that. Okay, so that's Kahoot, and we're running out of time. I know people want to finish, and I know that's kind of rough, right, when you end the game, but you get the point, right? You get the point about Kahoot, and I do want to end up, and I do want to honor your time. We're at 3:29. I'm so appreciative of your time, and I really appreciate some of the things I could have done as a facilitator there with the Kahoot, like Cheryl. Like I really appreciate Cheryl's comment about making sure I should have told you to go to 2 screens, right? So keep in mind, right, you want to instruct your kids about separating screens too. So you have the Google Meet on one side, and then whatever other media you want them to engage with, in this case, Kahoot on the other, right? So great point, Cheryl. Thank you very much. I'm going to stick around. Maggie, if you wouldn't mind sticking around too and just going through some questions. If, feel free to leave, do what you need to do. If you would provide some feedback, I really appreciate your interest in this time. I know this is a weird time, right? We're adjusting to instruction delivered via distance learning, and it comes with challenges for sure. I'm so appreciative of you taking out your summer vacation to catch up on some of these tools and some of these engagement strategies. Again, please fill out the session feedback and remember that exit ticket. Like, what's that one thing? Hopefully you got one thing. Hopefully maybe you're walking away with 2 to think about for the new year. I'm gonna stop recording. Maggie, if you wouldn't mind sticking around, if that's okay. And we can answer some more questions and go from there. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm stopping recording. And again, I will be here for another 10 minutes.
Rob, I have to leave actually because I have a PLC.
Oh, okay.
Do you think, Sherilyn, are you there? She said give her 3 minutes and she'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay?
Very
Okay.
good. Very good.
Sorry, Rob.